So we're going to do a summer barbecue today.
Yeah, it's summertime, um, so let's get out on the grill. Now, my intent was to do this on the grill.
Right. And then the rain came,
Yep,
and then the heat wave came.
yep,
So your grill turned into the oven.
Yep.
But there's no reason that you can't do this stuff on the grill.
no, but this means you can also have barbecue in the middle of winter.
That's true. So we're going to do a bunch of things today. We're going to start off by showing you how to make a couple of condiments.
Yeah.
A total of three. We'll show you two on camera and just tell you about the third. And what we wanted to do there is show you a few things. The first is that these things are relatively easy to make. And the other is that when you make them, you can control what's in them. So if you're reading your labels, and we certainly encourage you to read your labels, and you can't find the ingredients that you like, or you're finding that there are ingredients in the condiments, in the barbecue sauce, the taco sauce, the mayonnaise, all those sorts of things that you don't like, you have options. We realize that not everybody's going to have time to make these things, and not everybody wants to. So if you want to use jarred condiments, if you want to use prepared stuff, that's fine. We just want to show you that there are options,
Yep.
and that they are relatively easy to do.
Right. You're not you don't be intimidated, essentially.
Right. Once again, we are going to do a lot of things from scratch. There are beans in the burgers that we're doing, and we like to cook our beans from raw, dried beans because they store forever and because they are really inexpensive. Not everybody has the time to do that, so if you want to buy canned beans, we always recommend looking for the low sodium varieties and rinsing them well. Or if I see cooked beans on salad bars and things like that.
Yeah.
If you want to buy pre-cooked beans, if you want to buy pre-cooked lentils, we don't not using lentils in these burgers, but you certainly could.
Yeah.
Any of those things, those are fine. You have a lot of options. And before we get started, one last note, and that is, like most of our recipes, these are jumping off points. If you
Yep.
like different flavors, if you like different spices, add those. If there are ingredients in here that you don't like, either don't put them in or find a substitute. We want to get you cooking, as you like to say. We want to get you
To play with your food.
exactly. So with that, do you want to jump in, and we'll start with?
We're going to start with the taco sauce, and then after that we'll go into the barbecue sauce.
Right, and then we'll talk a little bit about making your own mayonnaise,
Right.
and then we'll put together dinner.
Yeah. So, here we go. So we start off with the sauce. I've got the water and vinegar actually put together here. Then all my spices. And afterwards I'll have a jar set aside for it. Now this is, it's really simple, it's really easy. This is one of those recipes where you just combine everything and let it go.
You know, just let it simmer for a little while.
Yeah.
Now we're making taco sauce because it's an ingredient in the baked beans that we're going to make. And one of the things that I'll point out is that this taco sauce uses half of one of the small cans of tomato sauce. And you use a full bottle of taco sauce in the beans.
Right.
So if you want, double the recipe,
Yeah.
and you'll have a full jar left over to use for whatever you want, or you can make twice as many beans.
And you you won't have a half a can of tomato sauce sitting in the refrigerator wondering what to do with
Right.
it. So, but yeah, this, like I said, simmer it, cook it for 20 minutes. You want to let it cool a little bit, but I mean, you can see here it's still got steam, so it's not cold. But yeah, it's really simple to put together, and if you want something a little more spicy, you can add more spice or more heat. If you want something less, drop it down.
Or
So-
if you like a different flavor profile, if you like different spices in your taco sauce, experiment, play.
Yeah. But yeah, it had been a while since I've made this recipe, and I forgot how much taco sauce it needed. So That's why I did the single batch.
And this stores in the refrigerator.
Yep.
It will store for a while. Obviously, check it before you use it if it's been in the fridge for a little while. But we found that it keeps pretty well in the fridge for
Yep.
a while.
But there you go.
That's it.
Yeah, that was our taco jar.
That's right. It's an old bottle of taco sauce that has had a long life.
But yeah, so you can see it's really simple to put something like that together. Next, I'm going to do the barbecue sauce.
And it's pretty much the same, right?
Yeah, I I actually had to wait a little while before I filmed it because I wanted the pan again.
You used the same pan.
So yeah, but because all of this stuff, I did all of this stuff in one day. So
Yes.
it's really simple. So the ketchup, got the, again, water, vinegar, or both vinegars. Got sugar, got some Worcestershire, your spices, and some mustards.
Obviously, look for a vegan
Yes.
Worcestershire, one that doesn't have any kind of fish products in it. This is one of your favorite
Oh,
toys, isn't it?
I love these things. When you get something that's got like syrup, that's just sticky and tacky, and you want to make sure you get it all without having to like scrape all the sides and all that. That does a beautiful job. Those plunger measuring cups.
Now, this is a great example of how you can use this as a base recipe. If you want to use a different sweetener, or you don't
Right.
want to use any sweetener at all, you can use whatever you like
Mhm.
as a sweetener. There are some of the cone sugars that you can get both in different varieties in Indian and Mexican grocery stores. There's agave syrup. You can use any number of things. If you like a smoky barbecue sauce, you can add a little bit of liquid smoke
Yep.
to this. If you want a spicier barbecue sauce, you can add some of the hotter peppers. You can really go in virtually any direction you like.
So, and I picked the wrong thing to stir on this, but fortunately I have the correct one. Another one of the nice toys is these balls whisks.
Yeah, these you can find online or in good cooking stores. They're called either a ball whisk or a roux whisk, and they just do a great job of breaking up lumps and bringing things together really quickly. So
And they fit in those corner of the pans when you have, instead of having the bulb, which can't really get into those corners,
yeah.
those things do a nice job. These ones. So and
Obviously, you don't need any of these.
No.
Any of these things, but if you're doing a lot of this and you're looking to get some useful
Mhm.
tools,
Yeah.
these are the things that we use.
Now I simmered this for 20 minutes, brought it to the boil, then simmered it
Mhm.
for 20 minutes, uncovered, because I wanted it to basically thicken. I wanted
Right,
to get
once
some
you
of
cook
the-
down and evaporate.
Right. So, and then I wanted it to cool for a little while because I didn't want to shock the jar. But
And here again, an old barbecue sauce jar that we had
Yeah, just-
laying around.
the recycle,
Well, reuse, right?
yeah, reduce, reuse, and recycle. Well, we're reusing.
And again, this keeps nicely in the refrigerator. We use this in this particular recipe in two ways. One is just as a condiment on top of
Yeah.
the burger, but also when you reheat the burgers, if you want to, you can baste or paint or
Yeah.
coat the burgers in this as you are reheating them.
Yeah, so it's a nice thing to have, and again, you get to control the ingredients.
Right.
So you don't get the high fructose corn syrup.
You
Can-
get that. You don't get oil if you don't want oil. You don't get salt if you don't
Right.
want salt. So you can really control
Yeah.
whatever you want, and you can make it as mild or spicy as you like.
Yeah, and I'll go ahead and get us started on the beans. That's
Mhm.
what's going to be next, because they are going to take longer. In fact, in one of the other videos, you'll still see it sort of simmering on the side. But while we got that going, also want to talk about the mayo. how to make up the mayo.
Oh, that's right. So in the potato salad that we're making, we're using a vegan mayo. Obviously, as we've said before, you can buy a vegan mayo in the store. And if you have one that you like, great. We like to make our own for a number of different reasons, and it's really simple. In fact, it's even easier than the taco sauce and the barbecue sauce because you don't have to heat it.
Yeah, there's no cooking involved.
So the recipe is linked in the description.
Yes.
And you can just dump everything in the food processor if you have a food processor. Whiz it around, scrape the sides down a couple of times
Yep.
just to make sure that everything gets combined, and then just store it in the fridge until you're ready to use it.
Yeah, I usually let it run for about 20 to 30 seconds, then scrape down the side, and then again 20 to 30 seconds, and I'll do basically 3 cycles like that.
And if you don't have a food processor, you can use a blender. If you don't have a blender, you can do it by hand. Just use what you have and make it simple.
And it's got the secret ingredient in it.
Right. We do use a product called black salt, which is a little bit misleading because it's pink in color. You'll find it either online or at Indian grocery stores.
Yep.
And it is a natural salt that has a high sulfur content to it.
Right.
And if you've eaten eggs in the past, eggs have a little bit of kind of a sulfury taste to them. And so using just a tiny amount of black salt, and you really don't want to be heavy-handed with this at all, will bring out that eggy flavor.
Right.
If you like it and you miss it, it's a great addition. If you don't like it, that's fine too.
Or if you're avoiding sulfur products. Yeah.
Right. Again, very little goes a very
Yeah.
long way. Get the smallest. We recommend getting either the smallest or the second smallest package, and it will last you a very, very long time.
I think we're still working on our first package after 5 years.
Yes.
So, and I do this a lot.
The other thing that I'll mention is for the mayonnaise, you want to use the silken tofu. Now, the
Right.
silken tofu is the one that comes in the completely enclosed cardboard box and the not refrigerated section of the store.
Correct.
So that, in our experience, makes the best mayonnaise.
Yeah, the thing about tofu is you have the refrigerated ones,
Mhm.
which are more, I think they describe cottony as the structure. Those are nice for crumbles and stuff like that because they have some body to them. The silkens are really good for sauces.
Sauces,
'Cause
chocolate
they-
mousse.
Yeah, because they've got a smooth mouthfeel texture to them.
Now you can use anything that you want. We're just saying that we've gotten the best results for mayonnaise and other creamy, silky sauces by using the silken tofu, the stuff in the box that's not refrigerated.
Okay, so next are getting the beans started.
Yes.
So, oops, the right button here. So, all right. So we'll start with our ingredients. We've got the onions, we've got the garlic, potatoes, which are off screen there. Now,
I'm sorry, did you say potatoes?
yeah, I did say potatoes, didn't I?
You're getting ahead of yourself.
Yeah,
That's the next recipe.
Still thinking about the mayo. Yeah, so we've got the beans.
Mhm.
Now, I pre-cooked these beans. I didn't let them soak overnight, which is what the recipe actually calls for. So these were put in a pressure cooker. They were cooked for about 40 minutes and then naturally released. So it was 1 pound of beans, 6 cups of water. And because they were pre-cooked, the 6 cups of water that is in the recipe was too much.
So they came out a little soupy. You were able to cook them down.
Yeah.
But the point here is that this recipe really works best, if you're going to do it exactly as it is, if you use dried beans,
Right.
soak them overnight and drain them and put them in and let them cook in the sauce.
Right.
They'll really soak up the sauce that way, and I think it makes a really nice product.
Mhm.
If you do want to use pre-cooked beans, if you want to use canned beans, you can do one of two things. you can either reduce the amount of water, so instead of 6 cups, maybe try about 4.
Yeah.
Or you can let them simmer with the lid off and let them cook down.
Right. So, and now here I've had the onion and garlic already in, and I've let those saute. Again, no oils in any of these dishes. And I cooked the tomato sauce here, or my tomatoes here, a little bit because I wanted to try to get some of that nice rich flavoring
Right.
that you get when you cook.
One of the things that we like to do whenever we use any kind of tomato product, whether that's tomato paste, tomato sauce, or just canned tomatoes, is when it goes into the pan, usually after we've sauteed some onions and garlic or whatever vegetables, we like to let it cook for a little while and sort of roast a little bit and develop some color. That color, I mean, obviously you don't want to burn it, but that getting that deep, dark color develops flavor.
Okay. Now what you saw me do is I put in, that was the 1 cup of taco sauce that we made earlier. I put a little water in the bottle so I can get all of that, and then I used the water that I had measured for the for the beans, and I used that to rinse out the other cup that had the actual taco sauce. So.
But that was all part of the measured water.
Right.
That was that total of 6 cups.
But I used the water to help wash out and
Right.
make sure I get all the ingredients.
Exactly.
And again, my ball whisk. This just makes things a whole lot easier. So yeah, but yeah, the beans were the big problem. I kind of messed up on that one, but I've recovered.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things that we talked about is if it was the fall or the winter, and you wanted to throw some veggies and other things into there, you could probably make really nice bean soup when it's liquidy like that.
Yeah. I wonder how that would work for almost a black bean tortilla soup.
That could be interesting. We may have another recipe coming to you in our future.
So yeah, so this was boiling and simmer. Again, like I said, I realized I had too much liquid in there, so this is going to simmer a little longer. You'll see it in the potato.
The potato salad. Yeah, so you're just going to put it off to the side and make the potato salad.
But I did want to do my ending on this, so we're going to jump forward here.
In fact, we jumped forward to after dinner.
Yeah.
Because we ate a fair amount of that before.
It just smelled too good. And so we each had a good bowl.
So it makes more than this, but it's also a good case for making a double recipe.
Yes.
So this reheats really nicely. You can stick this in the fridge, and if you've got a pot like this or any other kind of pot that will stand up to the heat of the barbecue, you can reheat them just out on the barbecue.
And you can maybe get some smoke into it.
That's true.
You could add some liquid smoke to this and get more smoky flavor.
Right. I mean, you could do your classic trick of adding a few drops of maple syrup and a few drops of liquid smoke, and it gives it that kind of hammy, bacony kind of thing that some people who are transitioning away from meat products like.
So now we're going to get started on the potato salad.
Yep.
So let's get into that. So I start off with the mayo, as you can see, and that's what I made at home. We've got the relish, we've got the mustard, some vinegar, some spices, potatoes, the celery, and onion. Now, the potatoes, the recipe I gave online talks about putting them into a pan of cold water and cooking them that way. And that works great. I was in a bit of a rush because, again, I did all this video in one day. I used the pressure cooker, and so the potatoes went in a steamer basket in the pressure cooker, about 15 minutes high pressure, and then let the pressure naturally release.
Mm-hmm. And then just stick a knife or a fork in them to make sure that they're
Yeah.
done.
And then put them on for another 5 minutes if you think they need it. So,
Right.
but
They shouldn't.
they should, no. But this way you can get cooked potatoes within an hour.
But as you can see here, this is kind of a theme for our recipes. It's just combine all the ingredients.
Yeah.
And once you get the sauce together, you're going to cube up those potatoes and add them in. We should note, so that people don't get confused, over in the corner you see the pan of beans simmering.
Yes.
Those are the beans. That's a separate recipe that...
Yeah, we did that just
the-
before.
So don't let that confuse you that it's
Yeah.
not part of the potato salad.
Yeah. The beans needed to simmer for about an hour, so I decided I didn't want to just sit around and wait for an hour.
Right. Well, and that's the great thing about these recipes is you can do them in parallel. You don't have to.
Right.
So here you are cubing up the potatoes.
Yeah.
You can make any size that you want. We like what, about a 1/4 inch,
About a half inch.
about half inch
Yeah.
size.
You want something that easily you can get maybe 1 or 2 pieces in for a bite.
Mm-hmm. Now, as you can see here, Brian has some decent knife skills. If you don't feel as comfortable with the knife, just go slower.
Yes.
Take your time. Make sure you know where your fingertips are before you cut,
Right.
and everything should be fine.
Yep. And you can see here basically about the size of the chunks.
And you're breaking those up, and I think
Yeah.
we'll see coming up here.
Well,
You don't actually see it.
Jump to the end,
Right.
but I did mix in some of the mayo sauce.
Right, just to keep stuff from sticking
Yeah,
together.
give a chance for the coat to start coating, or
Mhm. And that's actually a good tip here. Is if you add the mayo slowly, you can make it as wet or as dry as you like.
yeah,
Realize that, especially if you're going to stick this in the fridge for a while, it will soak up some of
yeah.
that sauce.
The potatoes will pull in some more moisture.
So it may look a little overdressed at the beginning, but after it's sit for a while, which we recommend.
Right, because then you get it, if you let them sit at least overnight, 4 hours I think minimum.
Mhm.
The flavors start to combine and meld together. So, but yeah, and then after that is just put everything together. I should have used a bigger bowl, but I can do this. So,
But these, we hope that you're finding these to be quick and easy recipes. Don't make things more complicated than they need to be. As we've said several times, if you don't want to make your own mayo, if you don't want to make your own taco sauce, if you don't want to make your own barbecue sauce, that's fine. Do this in ways that work for you.
right. We chose to do the no oil and plant-based cooking. Now, if there are some people that are doing the vegan diet, which they can use oil, regular vegan mayo will work
Works
just fine.
just fine, exactly.
We're just doing the no oil. We're doing the whole food portion of that. So, yeah, just put that in the refrigerator and let it go for overnight would be the best. But,
Since you brought up the no oil, this is probably a good time to both thank our friends
Yeah.
at the Indianapolis Public Library as well as the Indianapolis Foundation Library Fund, who make these videos possible through a grant to the Indianapolis Public Library Foundation. The IPL, the Indianapolis Public Library, has a list of resources available for just about every aspect of vegan cooking and eating that you can imagine, including books, documentaries, and other resources where you can look at the ethical, environmental, and health implications of your food choices. As we've mentioned in this and other videos, we've chosen to eat whole food, plant-based, and oil-free. But by looking at these resources, you can decide what choices are right for you and your family. So,
yeah.
On to our last recipe, right?
Our last recipe for this one, the bean burgers, our black bean burgers, is I think what I'm calling them, but.
But actually, these have two kinds of beans in
We've
them,
got
right?
two beans, and you can use whichever beans you'd like, or even lentils if. So, but yeah, and this is only one variation. There's a bunch out there. So I've got the red onions, got some mushrooms. They're optional, but I think they add some good flavor. Red pepper, garlic, the two beans, some spices, and some brown rice flour.
Which is a little bit of a tricky ingredient, but you can make your own. We were
Yeah.
out of brown rice flour, so we made our own. Just take some brown rice, whatever brown rice you happen to have, run it through a blender or one of those little whirly blade coffee grinders,
Yeah.
and then run it through a sieve to get the big chunks out. You can take those and run them.
Put the big chunks back in and run them some more. And,
Right. But it's relatively easy to make, and it's a good thickening agent
Yeah.
or binding agent.
right, and that's essentially what we're going to use it for. When it comes to doing the veggie burgers, there's like three components, I think, is the best way to describe this. You have your protein, and in that case I'm using two different types of beans here.
Right.
You could use lentils, you could use some other things, but you have your protein. Then you'll have your filler, and that's going to be the red onion, the red pepper, the mushrooms, things like that. That's going to give you some bulk to fill out things. Your spices, so you can get some flavoring, so maybe 4 parts there. And then you'll have your binding agent, and in this case we're using the brown rice flour to basically stick everything together. This is going to sort of become our food glue.
Now, as you mentioned, you've got these different components that are doing different work. Doesn't mean you have to use exactly these ingredients. For example, if you don't like mushrooms, well, then don't put in mushrooms.
No, you can put in pretty much any other veggie. I mean, I'm doing the red onion and the bell pepper.
You could
Probably do broccoli or cauliflower.
You could shred up some zucchini. Now, if you did something like that, like a summer squash that's kind of wet, you're going to want to cook
Yeah.
it down and get some of the moisture out.
Well, I do that also when I've added the beans in, and because the mushrooms are going to give off a lot of moisture. As you can see, if you look carefully in there, you can see there's like little bubbling, boiling points. The bell pepper is giving off moisture, so you want to cook a little bit of that down, but you don't want it to get too dry,
Right.
because you need something for that rice to activate. So, but you do want to pull out. You don't want it soaking wet.
Exactly. Well, ultimately, you're looking to get to that consistency of something that you can form into a pan.
Right. Yeah, you want to get to a dough, essentially. It's kind of a cross between a dough and a batter.
So now you're adding your spices.
And the beans, and I'm going to heat those through and make sure they're all mixed through. And that's going to also give up some more moisture. But, and again, like I said, there is no oil in this pan.
Now you're going to break this up in a food processor.
Right.
If you don't have a food processor, you could use something like a potato masher or the back of a spoon
Or fork, or
right, something like that. You just want to break this up a little bit. You're not trying to turn this into a smooth paste,
right.
but
But you do want it to break it up enough that it's going to, well, basically congeal together.
yeah, there's kind of a nice chunky texture.
And that's why I use the pulse on it, and you'll see that I just use the pulse a couple of times.
But yeah, this is not stick it in the food processor and let it run until it's a smooth paste. This is use that pulse button and watch it, and make it as fine or as smooth as you like. And then We don't do this in this particular version, but once you have that, if you wanted to do any additions at this point, like add some peas or corn or
Yeah.
other whole vegetables, small
Mhm.
whole or chopped vegetables, you could do that as well.
Well, you could have done that in place of the bell pepper.
Exactly.
I don't see any reason not to do peas or corn,
Mm-hmm.
or you could have done them in addition. So
Right.
yeah, switch things out. Um,
So you've got that going.
yeah, I put the rice in and I pulsed it a couple of times to start mixing it together. And
You can kind of get a little sense of what kind of texture we like, but
Yep.
once again, make it your own.
and I am being really careful around the blade. I'm using that little spatula. And I'm just mixing again to make sure all the rice flour is
But
mixed
you
in.
want to make sure that
Yeah.
that's incorporated.
Now I use, instead of parchment paper, I use this black grill mat. Now this can go right out on the grill. They can go right on the oven rack inside. These don't have a lot of body to them, so I needed something that had a little bit more structure to transfer them in and out of the oven. So that's why I have the pan. But the grill mats are really nice. If you do those right on the grill, your barbecue grill, you can get grill lines through it.
Right.
It's non-stick. There's no Teflon in it, I don't believe. So they're really nice, and you can get them almost anywhere. Costco, Amazon.
When we first started using these, they were a little difficult to find, but they're getting much more popular now in grill shops, any place that you can get grilling supplies, as you say, online. Recently saw them at Costco.
Right. And we have, we bought this a decade ago or so, was the hamburger press. And we've ended up using it more doing this.
Obviously, we're not using it now, but if you do have a hamburger press or some sort of mold that you like to use to make patties, it works really well.
Mhm. So,
And you can make a bunch of patties and then cook them off like this and freeze them because
Right.
they also reheat well.
and again, now I made 6 patties, so these are some good sized patties, as you can see.
And you did flip them over while they were
Yeah,
cooking.
I cooked them actually for about, I think, 30 to 40 minutes on each side. So this is after that. But if you needed to, what I was going to say was, if you need more burgers, you want smaller ones, if you
Mhm.
want to put them on smaller buns and stuff like that, make smaller patties.
Mhm.
You'll probably get maybe 8 to 10.
Right. Yeah. You can make them as big or as small as you like. You can
So,
crumble them up and use them as
yeah.
filling for tacos or
Yeah.
enchiladas or.
The next night, I crumbled one up, and it became the taco meat
Mhm.
for soft tacos. So,
So once again, all of this, the beans, if you have the right pot, and the burgers can be done out on the grill.
yeah,
We got rained out.
Yes.
And so we had to move this indoors. It can all be done in a day
yeah,
if you do things in parallel. If you don't want to make the condiments, use the store-bought condiments. We do recommend reading labels and making conscious choices about
Mhm.
the ingredients that you choose.
but you can see how easy it is to make your own.
Exactly. So, and experiment. If you don't like the flavors, the spices that we've chosen, feel free to switch things up and make things your own. So, if you do, we'd love to hear from you, both with your questions, if you have any, your comments, if you've made some of these dishes, and especially if you've made alterations that you like, your suggestions, as well as anything that you would like to see in the future. that you have questions about or recipes that you'd like to see us try and tackle. So once again, thanks to our friends
Yeah.
at the library, and we'll see you on the next video.
All right, and have a great summer. Take care.